the government didn't want a more severe recession in 2001 or 2002, and so we artificially stimulated the economy. We created a housing bubble that never would have existed absent that government stimulus, particularly the monetary stimulus. People were able to make very risky bets with banks' money, or taxpayer money, as it turned out. And if you give people an opportunity to gamble with no downside, they're going to do it. The crazy thing is, all the people who said everything was great in 2007, 2006, the economy had never been better, everything was fantastic, they couldn't see this train wreck coming, even though it was staring them in the face. They're the people who are still in charge. They're the ones who are fixing the economy when they don't understand why it broke. In fact, they broke it, and they're trying to fix it by doing more of what broke it in the first place. And you hear that all around. Hey, we dodged a bullet. You know, the Fed is fighting deflation. Why do they have to fight that? They're fighting my cost of living going down. They're fighting my ability to buy gasoline cheaper, to buy food cheaper. You know, I don't need protection from cheap food and cheap gasoline and cheap health care and cheap... I want those things. Prices fell in America from 1800 to 1900. For 100 years, prices were declining. You know, if people talk to their grandparents now, or their great-grandparents, and they'll tell you stories about, hey, I remember when penny candy was a penny, and I went to the movies for a dime, and I can't believe how expensive things are. Well, in 1900, when kids were talking to their grandparents, it was the opposite. Their grandparents said, you know how expensive that was when I was a kid? Oh, it's half the price now. You're lucky. And I gave the example of, let's say a circus comes to town. And it's a small town, and so there's obviously a lot of people in the circus. And all of a sudden, all the people that work at the circus start eating in a local restaurant. Now, the owner of that restaurant, he sees all this new demand. He's got a lot of customers he didn't have before. And he misinterprets that. He thinks, well, gee, this is great. I need to expand. And maybe he rents additional space and expands. Maybe he rents the space next door and builds a bigger restaurant. He hires additional waitresses to take, because he's got a lot more customers now. And for a while, everything is great because the people in the circus are coming to the restaurant. Well, then all of a sudden, it's time to move on. They pull up their stakes and they all take off. And now the demand is right back to where it was. The circus is gone. But now the business is expanded. He's got too much capacity. He's got extra space he doesn't need. He's got waitresses and busboys he doesn't need. He's got dishwashers. What is he going to do? He made a mistake. He misinterpreted that increase in demand as being a permanent increase, and he made changes based on that misinterpretation of what was happening. Now what does he have to do? Well, now he's got to, he's got rent, he's got to sublease some of his property, he's got to lay off some of his workers. Yes, this is bad news for the people who are losing their jobs. Maybe it's bad news for the landlord who's not getting his rent, but it's necessary because now he's got to correct the problems. He's got too many people standing around doing nothing because there's nobody eating in the restaurant. They need to do something productive. They need to apply their labor in a more efficient manner. It was allocated improperly based on this entrepreneur's bad decisions based on this signals that he got. And that's the good thing. Now the government would say, oh no, we can't allow this recession. We need to keep those waitresses in place. You can't lay these people off. We need to give you stimulus money so that you can keep a bigger staff than you actually need, so that you can keep using space that you don't need, space that maybe a hardware store would go in that we do need, but now we have a bigger restaurant than we can actually support.